Welcome to Cricket Pals. This is me, Teacher Marco, and today we will talk about the exam type or exam questions, the type of questions that you will encounter in your exams for the GED Social Studies test. Um, I have prepared 16 questions that I think will represent the majority of the question types for the GED Social Studies. And today, we will try to answer them. So you will be encountering political cartoons, graphs, primary sources, and all of those type of articles that you might encounter when you take your GED Social Studies test. So let's begin. So let's read question number one, the passage for question number 1 and 2. Operant conditioning occurs when you learn from the consequences of your behavior. For example, if you park your car in a handicapped-designated parking space and receive a parking ticket, you probably will not park your car in a handicapped space again. Now let's have question number 1. According to the passage, which of the following statements is true? Now, before we answer this, I know that I might be reading fast, but the only thing you have to do is to pause on your screen and give yourself time to think and analyze the passage. All right, so you can pause your screen now for the passage. And now let's go to question number 1. You can pause the screen as well. So, which of the following statements is true? 1. Your behavior operates on the outside world to produce a consequence. Operant conditioning is only a theory. Number 3. Your behavior has no effect on operant conditioning. Number 4. Only handicapped persons are to use handicapped parking space. Number 5. People change their actions depending on the consequences of their previous actions. Okay, so in the previous passage, in the previous page, it's talking about operant conditioning and it's defining what is operant conditioning. And now, basically, this question is looking for a statement that sounds very close, and it's true and very close to the passage that you just read. So the answer here is number 5. Why? The consequence of receiving a ticket will probably decrease or completely eliminate the behavior that caused you to get the ticket, and that is operant conditioning. Number 2, you can pause your screen and let's read. In the example given in the passage, the stimulus or the factor that influences your change in behavior is what? What changes your behavior? Is it the handicapped parking space? Is it the car that you parked? Is it the parking ticket? Is it the fact that you got caught? Or is it your reaction to the ticket? It's actually the stimulus is the one thing that influences you to change your behavior is the parking ticket. Parking ticket will probably influence your decision not to park in the handicapped spaces in the future. All right. There you go. Number 3 and 4. Let's try to read this following information. Economist, one who studies production, distribution, and consumption of wealth and ways of supplying the material wants of people. Psychologist, one who studies behavior and the human mind in their many aspects, operations, powers, and functions. Sociologist, one who studies human society, social phenomena, the progress of civilization, and the laws controlling human institutions and functions. And lastly, historian, one who studies and explains the record of past events. Oh, we have another one here, which I forgot to highlight, and geographer, one who studies the planet Earth, including its climate products, natural features, and inhabitants. So these are terminologies that you will use to answer questions number 3 and 4. Number 3, you can pause your screen. Okay, let me go back first, and then you can pause your screen. Now let's go to question number 3. You can pause your screen. Okay, let's read question number 3. John Maynard Keynes, who wrote The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, was a interest, money. Those are your keywords. So the answer here is economist. Why? Because it is indicated in the title of his book, one who studies production, distribution, consumption of wealth, and ways of supplying material wants of people. Money, wealth. Okay, that's the title of his book, and of course, by that you can guess that he is an economist. Number 4, someone who examines the effects of poverty on preschool children living in urban areas of the American Southwest is examine people. What is that? Let's go back. One who studies human society, social phenomena. So the answer is number 3. Okay. No, not that one. This one. Okay. So someone who studies the social effects of circumstances on a group is a sociologist. Let's read this. You can pause your screen as well. Number 5 and 6 refer to the following information. The Eastern Woodland peoples of North America lived in what is now the northeastern part of the United States. The Mohawk, Oneida, Seneca, and other groups lived by hunting, farming, corn and squash, fishing, and gathering berries. By contrast, peoples of the Northwest, including Nootka, Tillamook, and Coos, survived by fishing for salmon, cod, herring, and halibut in the crowded streams and coastal waters, and by using the trees of the huge forest of the area for many of their needs. Now let's go to number 5. Salmon was a staple in the diet of the... It's very easy, right? The what? Okay. Tillamook, this people, Nootka, Tillamook, and Coos. So let's see. Is there... Okay, the only one mentioned from that group is Tillamook, right? The Tillamook group live in Northwest. And those tribes mentioned there, they fish for salmon. Number 6. So as you can see now, you might have noticed a trend that most of the questions on your social studies test is checking how well you understand the passage that you have read and how well you skim and scan and search for information that you will need for you to answer the question. Of course, this does not apply all the time, but most of the time, that's what you will be doing for your GED Social Studies test. Now you can pause your screen for number 6 and then let's go ahead and read it. Okay, let's read. The passage indicates that a native people's way of living depended on the 1. Fish availability in the region, 2. Proximity of streams and coastal waters. 3, crops and berries that grew in the region. 4, geography and resources of the region. 5, proximity of large forests. All of this, 1, 2, 3, 5, all of this are actually pertaining to number 4. 4 is your general statement here. In the passage, it shows that native peoples in both areas of the country relied on locally available game and plants, such as fish and berries, for food, and on geographic characteristics, such as forests, for their needs. All right. So basically, this sums up. That's why we chose number 4. Number 7 and 8, let's refer to the following information. Unemployment of qualified workers has 3 basic causes. Cynical unemployment is caused by slowdowns in the economy. Businesses sell fewer goods and thus need fewer workers. These same workers often are rehired when businesses picks up again. Now another, seasonal unemployment occurs in industries such as farming that need many workers during some seasons, but not during others. And number 3, structural unemployment takes place when businesses move from one location to another, or when skills of certain workers become obsolete or are no longer needed for some reason. Occasionally, unemployment can be caused by more than one of these situations at a time. So you can pause your screen, and then let's take a look at this. Number 7. Peter is a ski instructor in Colorado. When the economy is slow, fewer people ski, but Peter is still hired by the ski resort. Every year, though, he has trouble finding someone who will hire him for about 5 months when there is no skiing. Peter's unemployment is what type? So it is seasonal. Why? Peter's temporary unemployment is seasonal because according to the passage, he always has a job during ski season, even when the economy is slow. So he has difficulty finding employment only during the months when the ski slopes are not open, right? So that is seasonal. Seasonal unemployment. Critics of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, argue that many Americans' jobs will be lost as companies take advantage of opportunities to move their operations to Mexico. The fear is that workers will experience which type of unemployment? What do you think? It is structural. When companies change locations, their employees are subject to structural unemployment. What is structural unemployment? Move from one location to another, right? There you go. So, there. Now let's go to a different type of test, which is maps. Okay, and diagrams. So if you take a look at the map here, you can see here we have different time zones. We have, different areas. Okay, all right, this is the time zone map. So take a look at the details. It's 7 p.m. in the Pacific time. It's 8 p.m. in the Mountain Time, Central Time, 9 p.m. and Eastern Time, 10 p.m. So PMCE, 7, 8, 9, 10, all right? All right, now let's go to the question. When it is 1 a.m. in Atlanta, what time is it in Los Angeles? Okay, let's try to take a look. Where is Atlanta? All right, over here, East Coast. Now, what's the other one? What time is it in Los Angeles? It's over here. So, now, what is the answer? It's actually 10 p.m. Why? So as the map shows, the later times are in the east and the time difference is 3 hours. 3 hours from east to west coast. So basically, if it's 1 a.m. minus 3, it's going to be 10 p.m., right? Easy as that. Simple, right? And 10. When it is 2 p.m. in Seattle, what time is it in San Francisco? Let's go back to the map. Okay. So, all right. Seattle and San Francisco. Where are they? Okay, Seattle and San Francisco. They both belong in the same area, right? What time is it? Okay. So, if it's 2 p.m. in Seattle, what time is it in San Francisco? It's also 2 p.m. That's why it's number 4. Now, let's take a look at this graph. If you take a look, cost of an average traditional wedding. Okay, wow, look at that, reception. Costs a lot. While the clergy is somehow, yeah, okay. And a groom's clothing? My God, so it's the cheapest thing. It's the groom's clothing. Okay, now let's take a look at the questions. According to the graph, which 2 categories cost less than the limousine? Which categories, 2 categories, cost less than the limousine? Let's take a look at the limousine. So, $192. So what are the 2 things that are cheaper than $192? It's the clergy and groom's clothing, because this is $192, that is $113, and that is $77. So the answer here is number 3. Simple, right? So it's all about fishing information, and that is really important. And how do you do that? By skimming and scanning and understanding the passage. Of course, there might be more difficult types of questions, but I'm just showing you something that will not consume a lot of your time, because I know that this is only a tutorial video, all right? But I still highly advise you to keep on reading, okay? 12. The average traditional wedding shown in the graph costs slightly more than $10,000. What about the portion of the amount? What portion of the amount is cost of the reception? So how many percent? So for example, if it's like $10,000, how many percent is this? 5,957. So how much is that? Right? So how many percent is that? That is about 60%. Even without using your calculator, I'm pretty sure if it's 10,000, okay, you have 10, all right, that's 5.9, that's about 60%, right? Even without the calculator, guys. Okay, but for your reference, how do you get the percent? Of course, you divide 5,957 divided by 10,000, and then you multiply it by 100, and that's how you will get the percent. Okay, now let's take a look at this political cartoon. Take a look at the labels here. Ooh, you have the sickle and hammer there, which denotes what? Communism, people's glorious centralized distribution system. And then record Soviet crop. Okay, all right. Pulp, just a very little drop here. A boot? Okay, now let's take a look at the question. Which statement best summarizes the point of this 1990 cartoon? Always take a look at the date. Okay, the date is really important. Now with this, you need to have a background knowledge about what is happening during this time. Okay, during this time, the Soviet Union is actually having a lot of difficulties. Why? Right, because this is now the end of the Cold War. This late 80s and early 90s. So these are the years where Cold War is actually ending. The cartoon shows what? What do you think? Farmers in the Soviet Union were sometimes able to raise? Not really. You see, they're not actually raising the bumper crops. Despite huge resources, the Soviet system managed to produce practically nothing. Exactly, this is the answer here. All right, Soviet Union used a highly centralized distribution system. People in Soviet Union had to endure low standard of living. That's not the best summary. By the 1900s, machinery in the Soviet Union was quite antiquated by Western standards. And 14, with which statement would the cartoonist be most likely to agree? Communism provided a decent living? I'm not sure about that. Few people believe that communism would fail so completely in the Soviet Union. No, he's against communism. You can feel it from the drawing. People who live in the Soviet Union got what they deserve. Not really. You see that? Just a drop in the boot. Communism was a system that took advantage of the people forced to endure it. Yes, exactly. This is it. Soviet Union had many lazy workers. They have a lot of resources. They have high yield in their crops. But the problem is this one. 15. Now, some questions don't contain any passage. It just relies on your personal knowledge. Let's take a look at number 15. You can pause the screen before I read it. In the first years of the existence of the United States, the right to vote was limited to white male landowners aged 21 or over. Since then, there has been a gradual extension of the right to include women, minorities, and people aged 18 and over. Regardless of the economic status, which statement best describes why this extension of the rights has taken place? Alright, so the great growth in overall population has been a major cause of the extension of voting rights. The idea has grown that all people are equal and should be treated as such. The westward movement of white settlers led to the need for more voters west. Not really. The elimination of slavery in 1865 was the main reason for this extension of rights. Part of it, more people today qualified to elect responsible leaders. The answer here is number 2, why. A growing belief in the essential equality of people is the core factor that has led to an extension of voting rights. That is the main reason, actually. That is the main reason why voting was extended to any race. As you can see, 13, 14, and 15, those amendments are, of course, they are passed within the same period of time, right? Or they were written during the same period of time. And number 16, which of the following men is best known as the leader of American civil rights movement of the 1960s? So, the answer is number 3, Martin Luther King Jr. I'm sure you know that. So he was a great leader of the 1960s American civil rights movement. Choices 1, 4, and 5 are African American leaders of the early 1900s. And um, of course, number 2 is the leader of today. Is the leader of today, Jesse Jackson. Okay. All right. So there you go. Those are the kinds of questions that you will encounter on your GED Social Studies. I hope that I was able to help you today, and I want to thank you for your time. And just make sure to improve your reading skill. That is really important. Your keen observation, and always check the details of every passage or material or source that is given to you on the test. Again, thank you. This is Teacher Marco, and see you on our next video. If you want to know more about us, please go ahead and check out our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/PhuketPals, or check our website. That's PhuketPals.org. Bye-bye.